Chapter 2757, The Omega Staircase, 1. In just a few short days, rumors that the starry sky passage is the Omega Staircase and it holds the secret to becoming a god had spread like wildfire among the myriad races and human nations. Some of the details in these reports were even more elaborate and tempting than the story Zhang Yi had concocted himself. Something's off. In his study, Zhang Yi frowned slightly as he reviewed the intelligence Yang Xinxin had compiled. These rumors are spreading too fast, and they're far too organized. It's as if someone is secretly working with us. I noticed that too. Yang Xinxin tapped the armrest of the sofa beside her as data streams flashed rapidly across the screen. Several unidentified information sources are actively operating on the dark web and across the communication channels of various civilizations. They're deliberately steering public opinion, directing everyone's greed toward the starry sky passage. This was originally something Zhang Yi had planned to do. He was still figuring out how to spread rumors without leaving a trace. Now someone had beaten him to it. Although he was pleased to see this outcome, he felt a strange unease deep down. He didn't like anything happening that was beyond his control. Zhang Yi's fingers tapped lightly on the table, a flash of wariness crossing his eyes. It seems we're not the only ones eyeing this prize. Is someone else trying to use the starry sky passage to set a trap? Or do they actually know something? Is the starry sky passage a trap? Not entirely. As a historical relic of a super-ancient civilization, it is guaranteed to contain valuable resources. Even if it's just information from that era, it could prove immensely useful today. Zhang Yi had merely downplayed the risks and made a big deal out of the potential treasures it might hold, that was all. But if one actually entered the starry sky passage and managed to return alive, there would certainly be a reward. For instance, those free-floating energy form creatures he had seen back then would serve as fodder for advancement for even knight-level or queen-level mutants. Just as Zhang Yi was keeping a low profile, Tianhai City welcomed a group of special guests. There was no grand fanfare, only a small, unmarked aircraft that landed discreetly on Tianhai City's diplomatic helipad. There were only 3 visitors. A refined middle-aged man wearing a vintage trench coat and sporting a smile, King's servant, Mildred Bratt. Among the currently known members of the Pupil organization, he is roughly considered the second in command. The reason for saying roughly considered is that the Pupil organization is merely a loose coalition with few binding constraints among its members. Even the chairman can only make requests of the members, he cannot issue orders. Accompanying Mildred were Zhang Yi's old friends, Professor Da Vinci and Brian. These 3 are likely core members of the Pupil organization. Especially that dog Brian, he's actually secured a spot among the 4 horsemen of the dawn, serving as the Knight of Benevolence. The trio had notified Zhang Yi of their arrival in advance. With countless people reaching out to Zhang Yi lately, he wasn't surprised. After all, when you're poor in the city, no one cares. When you're rich in the mountains, even distant relatives come calling. He had defeated the 5 great clans and personally slain a nightmare clan Black Knight-level Powerhouse, making him the talk of the entire Earth Star for the time being. The currently powerful factions of the 6th generation, including Columbia, Britannia, Fremons, and the Cutan Empire, had all sent video messages to congratulate him. Professor Da Vinci and Brian, in particular, were extremely close to Zhang Yi. When they offered to come visit, Zhang Yi, having nothing else on his plate, made time to meet with them. What a rare visit. Zhang Yi received them in the reception hall. Although he was now a Black Knight renowned throughout the world, he always held a special regard for the Pupil organization. After all, throughout his journey, this mysterious organization had extended a helping hand to him on numerous occasions. Toward his friends, Zhang Yi had never been stingy with his kindness and sincerity. Because in this chaotic era, friendship was the most precious of relationships. Congratulations, Lord Zhang Yi. You have settled the matter with a single battle and are now, without a doubt, the undisputed #1 on Earth. Mildred removed his hat, bowed slightly, and spoke with genuine respect. Spare me the pleasantries. Zhang Yi waved his hand, gesturing for them to take a seat. You don't visit without a reason. You've all come together, surely it isn't just to pay me a few compliments? Mildred smiled faintly, his expression turning serious. It is indeed a matter of great importance. Lord Zhang-Yi, our president, wishes to meet with you. The president? Zhang-Yi raised an eyebrow, a hint of amusement flashing in his eyes. It's been so long. I've actually been quite curious myself about who this mysterious chairman really is. The leader of the Pupil organization, a name known but a face unseen, had long piqued Zhang-Yi's curiosity. Why had he only now decided to meet him? Was he trying to recruit him, or was he interested in the starry sky passage? Zhang-Yi's attitude was calm. After all, he now possessed sufficient strength to protect himself, and he had the Dragon Clan as his backing. To put it bluntly, his identity as the Knight of Illusion of the Pupil organization was now of little consequence to him. The only reason he hadn't withdrawn was out of a sense of loyalty, and because he could use the Pupil organization's intelligence network to gather information. However, he leaned back on the sofa, gazing at Mildred with a half-smile. Since he wanted to see me, why didn't he come himself? Given my current status, am I not worth a personal visit? This wasn't arrogance on Zhang-Yi's part. At his level, every move he made represented the face of the Huashu kingdom. Moreover, in this world where the strong reign supreme, it was the rule for the weak to pay their respects to the strong. For him to go see the leader of the Pupil organization? That depended on whether the other party was even qualified. Mildred let out a wry laugh, as if he had anticipated Zhang-Yi's reaction all along. You've misunderstood. It's not that the president doesn't want to come, it's that he cannot simply leave that place. Oh? Are you saying he's under house arrest? Zhang-Yi raised an eyebrow, asking with some surprise. No, it's to avoid detection. Mildred lowered his voice, his expression grave. The moment the president leaves that special sanctuary, there's a risk of exposure. Exposed to whom? The Holy See. Upon hearing that name, Zhang-Yi paused for a moment, then laughed dismissively. The Holy See? That madman organization made up of charlatans? Zhang-Yi shook his head, his eyes brimming with contempt. He hadn't forgotten what the people of the Holy See had done on the moon. If Pope Alexander X hadn't died, he would have had to rally a group of powerful warriors and pay a visit to the Vatican back then. The Pupil organization has helped me a great deal, and I remember that favor. Rest assured, on this little patch of earth, my word still carries some weight. I'll protect you, a mere Holy See can't make much of a splash. Zhang-Yi leaned back on the sofa, speaking with a calm expression. Chapter 2758, The Omega Staircase, 2. These days, Zhang-Yi even dared to exchange a few sharp words with Qing-san of the Tyrannosaur clan. A religious organization spanning 6 generations was, in his eyes, hardly a threat. After all, he was currently at the peak of his life's vigor, and it was only natural for him to be brimming with confidence. However, Mildred shook his head, and the worry in his eyes did not diminish despite Zhang-Yi's promise. Lord Zhang-Yi, you are indeed very powerful now, one might even say you are unparalleled among the 6th generation. But he took a deep breath and spoke slowly, enunciating each word, to stand against the Holy See, I'm afraid that won't be enough. Zhang-Yi's gaze instantly sharpened as he stared at Mildred, as if trying to see through her to determine if she was joking. Are you questioning my strength? I wouldn't dare. I'm merely stating a fact. Mildred met Zhang-Yi's gaze with composure. The waters of the church are far deeper and murkier than you imagine. The power they conceal dates back centuries. You will come to understand this in time. Zhang-Yi fell silent for a moment. He was a cautious man. Given Mildred's solemn tone, this could not be mere idle talk. In that case, I must ask for further clarification. Zhang-Yi tapped his fingers on the armrest. What's in it for me to meet him? I'm busy. I don't have time to listen to stories from some old man hiding in the shadows. Mildred looked at Zhang-Yi and slowly uttered a single sentence. Perhaps he can help you open the path to Omega. Omega. The moment those words were uttered, the air in the room seemed to freeze. Zhang Yi's pupils contracted slightly. This was the realm he currently desired most, and yet felt most lost about. The final stage of a mutant is Omega, representing infinity and eternity. It is the ultimate leap in the hierarchy of life, the true meaning of God. Even Brian and Professor Da Vinci turned their heads in surprise. It seems we've reached a very interesting phase of the conversation. A look of seriousness flashed across Professor Da Vinci's dead fish eyes. That's quite a bold claim. Zhang Yi smiled faintly, unconcerned. I haven't even touched the threshold myself. What qualifies him to guide me? In Zhang Yi's view, only someone of Ling's caliber was qualified to make such a claim. Yet even Ling had once told him just how difficult it was to reach the Omega stage. Even a mighty god-level civilization like the Yihan tribe had expended the accumulated resources of their entire race to forge just 4 Omega-level biological weapons. This is precisely what our president wishes to discuss with you personally, said Mildred. Just meeting with him won't cost you anything. Zhang Yi pondered for a long time, and the scales in his mind began to tip. Curiosity and the thirst for power gained the upper hand, yet he maintained his final measure of caution. I'll go if you insist. Zhang Yi suddenly pointed at Yang Xinxin beside him. Have her shoot an arrow at you. If you can catch it, I'll trust you. All right. To his surprise, Mildred didn't hesitate at all. He stood up immediately and spread his arms wide. Zhang Yi's brows furrowed. Yang Xinxin's ability was hardly a secret anymore. Everyone knew that anyone struck by the Hersher's arrow would become Yang Xinxin's puppet. Why was Mildred so unconcerned? Did he truly have such a clear conscience, with nothing to hide? Yang Xinxin glanced at Zhang Yi. Seeing him nod, she wasted no words. Raising her fair, delicate hand, she summoned the bow of judgment and the Hersher's arrow. An arrow radiating a faint, eerie black glow left the bowstring, heading straight for Mildred's heart. This was the Hersher's arrow, imbued with the rule effect of forced control. Even a bishop-level powerhouse would instantly lose the ability to move if struck by this arrow. Thud! The arrow struck Mildred's chest with pinpoint accuracy. However, the expected control effect did not manifest. The moment the arrow touched Mildred's body, a faint golden aura suddenly emanated from the surface of his skin. The aura was not intense, yet it carried an air of sacred inviolability. The black force of the law collided with the golden light, like snowflakes falling into boiling water, melting away instantly. The arrow vanished. Mildred stood where he was, his gaze still calm, showing no signs of losing control. What is this? Yang Xinxin was somewhat surprised, her eyes widening slightly. My law has failed? No, it's been nullified. Zhang Yi's expression also grew grave. He could tell that this wasn't Mildred's own power, but rather a protective talisman empowered by some external force. A method capable of ignoring the control of the rules category was extremely rare, even among ancient civilizations. This is the protection bestowed upon me by the president. Mildred explained, it is also the reason we have managed to survive the church's pursuit until now. Interesting. Zhang Yi stood up and clapped his hands. He finally understood that the people of the Pupil organization weren't as simple as they seemed. It appeared that the chairman behind them was even more unfathomable. The Pupil organization has always had a good relationship with me, they've watched me grow right before their eyes. If you truly harbored hostility toward me and possessed such capabilities, you would have struck long ago, there'd be no need to wait until today. Lead the way. Zhang Yi smoothed his collar, a look of curiosity flashing in his eyes. I'm eager to see just who this president is, someone capable of defying the rules. Mildred let out a sigh of relief and pulled an ancient golden pocket watch from his coat. The watch's surface was incredibly smooth, its luster somewhat dulled. It appeared to be at least several hundred years old. Please follow me. As Mildred spoke, he pressed the pocket watch, and a golden light portal slowly opened in the air. Strange spatial ripples swirled within the portal, its coordinates pointing toward an unknown dimension. After speaking, Mildred stepped through the portal first. Space ability. Interesting. Zhang Yi activated his the second hand of time ability. After confirming there was no danger, he looked at Yang Xinxin, Professor Da Vinci, and Brian beside him. Let's go together. Of course, we'd love to join in the fun too. Professor Da Vinci said, holding a bottle of wine. It seemed this was their first time meeting the mysterious chairman as well. Zhang Yi led the three of them through the golden portal. After a brief moment of dizziness, the scene before them suddenly cleared. A salty sea breeze swept over them, mingled with the fresh scent of fallen leaves. Zhang Yi found himself standing on the beach of a deserted island. All around was an endless expanse of deep blue ocean, yet this sea did not belong to any corner of Earth. A fissure in the physical world. As a top-tier spatial ability user, Zhang Yi instantly identified their location. Similar to the Dragon Realm's independent subspace. What a grand undertaking! Chapter 2759, Arrival on the Island, 1. This island is called Oyster Island. It is located somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, yet it does not belong to any particular body of water, for it is a severed pocket of space, completely cut off from the outside world. Given Zhang Yi's current level of cultivation, creating such a spatial fissure wasn't particularly difficult. With enough time, he could attempt to create a world like this himself. But considering how long the Pupil organization has existed, this ability is truly terrifying. Because it means that, long, long ago, there were already Epsilon-level mutants on this planet. How strange. If I had possessed such power hundreds of years ago, I would have unified the entire world by now. Zhang Yi muttered to himself, his doubts growing heavier. It's so beautiful here. Yang Xinxin gazed at the scenery before her and couldn't help but exclaim. Only then did Zhang Yi find the time to take in the view. Yang Xinxin was right, it was truly beautiful, so beautiful it seemed almost unreal. The island lacked the desolation and ice of a post-apocalyptic world, instead, it was covered in massive deciduous maple trees. Fiery red maple leaves blanketed the entire island like a cloud of sunset hues, rustling in the gentle breeze in a breathtaking display of beauty. And deep within the island, nestled among the foliage, stood an elegant, classical white villa, clearly visible from the beach. Woof woof woof. Brian loved this warm beach and ran back and forth across the sand. Mildred smiled and gestured to lead the way. Everyone, this way, please. The chairman is waiting for your arrival. The group walked through the maple grove and arrived at the villa. At that moment, an elderly man dressed in a black tailcoat and a top hat stood at the doorway, leaning on a walking stick, as if he had been waiting for quite some time. He looked very thin, with wrinkles on his face like the bark of a withered tree, but his eyes were unusually bright, radiating the wisdom and gentleness of one who had seen it all. Behind him stood a tall, dark-haired Asian maid with a cool, striking face, standing quietly with her hands at her sides. Oh, Mr. Chairman. Brian, who was usually carefree, became incredibly eager the moment he saw the old man and hurried forward to greet him. This is the first time I've met you in person. Brian, it's been a long time. You seem to have grown even stronger. I truly wish the prototype of the 7th generation chosen by the Creator were you, then you would become a god of the new era. From his words, Zhang Yi realized that the Pupil organization had played no small part in helping Brian achieve his current status. This was also one of the reasons why Brian had become one of the 4 knights. The old man smiled and nodded, removing his top hat to offer Zhang Yi and the others a proper gentleman's bow. Welcome to Oyster Island, esteemed Black Knight. The old man's voice was hoarse yet magnetic. I am Charles Louis Montesquieu, chairman of the Pupil organization. Montesquieu? Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. The one who wrote the spirit of the laws. I'm merely using a former alias. Montesquieu admitted it, and Zhang Yi wasn't particularly surprised. After all, if even Fuxi had survived to this day, what was so strange about a 6th-generation descendant living a few extra years? The old man smiled and stepped aside to clear the way. It's windy out here. Please come inside for a chat. I've prepared the finest black tea and pastries for you all. Led by Montesquieu, Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, and the others enter the villa. The villa's interior was exquisitely decorated, exuding the elegance of Euro-era nobility. The fire in the fireplace blazed brightly, banishing all traces of the cold. Zhang Yi didn't hesitate to take a seat on the sofa. The dark-haired maid immediately brought in steaming cups of black tea and delicate pastries, her movements skilled and graceful. "First of all, congratulations, Your Excellency." Montesquieu sat across from Zhang Yi, his hands clasped around his staff, his gaze gentle. "To defeat the alliance of the 5 great clans single-handedly and slay the nightmare clan Xinyan. In this battle, you have not only restored the prestige of the 6th generation but also truly ascended to the ranks of Earth's most extraordinary beings." "It was just luck," Zhang Yi replied casually, though his gaze remained fixed on the old man. "Let's get down to business. You said you came to help me open the path to Omega? Also, why did you say the Holy See is dangerous?" Zhang Yi fired off a barrage of questions. He had too many doubts swirling in his mind. Montesquieu did not answer directly. Instead, he lifted his teacup, took a sip, and spoke slowly. "Lord Zhang Yi, have you ever considered why you are so unique in this era?" "Unique?" Zhang Yi smiled. "Perhaps it's because I'm rather afraid of death, so my approach to things is quite cautious." "No, it's not just that." Montesquieu shook his head, his gaze fixed intently on Zhang Yi. "Throughout the long river of history, whenever an era nears its end and the shadow of the Druckers begin to stir once more, the Creator, or perhaps the will of this world, always selects certain extraordinary beings. They possess talents beyond reason and the power to shatter the balance. Their emergence serves to counterbalance those uncontrollable, immortal Drucker monsters. We call them the chosen proxies." Zhang Yi frowned. "Are you saying I'm the chosen one? That sounds like a cliché from a third-rate web novel. It might be like winning the lottery, pure luck, becoming the one lucky person among millions, or it might be the Creator's deliberate design. As a mortal, I don't understand the principles behind it either." Montesquieu replied calmly, "But the results don't lie. Your rate of growth and your circumstances all align with the characteristics of a proxy. Our pupil organization searches the globe for like-minded partners with exceptional talent, all to find the most promising candidate. We then spare no effort in supporting them to become an Omega. And as things stand, you are that most promising candidate." After hearing this, Zhang Yi didn't show much excitement. Instead, he grew even more puzzled. He thought to himself, true to old Qian's style, such a capitalist's approach. Isn't this just venture capital? Do you have the capability to do this? To nurture an Omega? Zhang Yi looked Montesquieu up and down, his eyes filled with skepticism. "Forgive my frankness, but though I cannot fathom your true depth, your life force does not seem particularly strong." This was not only the truth but also Zhang Yi's intuition. Though this old man was mysterious, he gave off the impression of an oil lamp about to burn out, its light steady, yet the oil nearly spent. "Heh." Montesquieu let out a low chuckle. He looked at Zhang Yi as if he were gazing upon a vibrant young disciple. "Young man, one cannot judge a person by appearances alone. Lord Zhang Yi, do you know how many years I have lived?" Chapter 2760, Arrival on the Island, 2. Zhang Yi shook his head. "I don't know. 300 years? 500 years? The lifespans of mutants are indeed longer than those of ordinary people, but they are not infinite." Montesquieu slowly held up 2 withered fingers. "Over 2,000 years." "What?" This time, it wasn't just Zhang Yi, even Yang Xinxin beside him couldn't help but look astonished. "Over 2,000 years? Doesn't that mean he's been alive since the beginning of the Common Era?" Professor Da Vinci stared with dead fish eyes, his gaunt hands clasped, and analyzed calmly. "They possessed the ability to live forever as early as the Common Era, correct? That does align with some mythological records. Ancient records from various human civilizations all document the longevity of people in those eras. For instance, the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine from the Huashu Kingdom records that people in ancient times remained physically robust even after living past 100 years. The Sumerian king list clearly records that their kings initially lived for tens of thousands of years, with lifespans gradually decreasing through the generations. And the Brahma epic poems even depict scenes of nuclear warfare from ancient times. In the past, I always dismissed these as ancient people's tall tales, but looking at them now, they might actually be true history. You've been alive for over 2,000 years? I have some doubts. Zhang Yi spoke bluntly, the limits of human lifespan are well established. Unless you're a drucker or some kind of otherworldly being. I am indeed human, a pure-blooded sixth-generation human. Montesquieu's eyes held a world-weary gaze, as if piercing through the mists of time to return to that ancient era. When Christ was preaching in Jerusalem, I was there listening below. Back then, I had another name. He paused, a wry, self-deprecating smile curving his lips. They called me Judas. At that, even Zhang Yi could no longer sit still. Judas? The traitor who betrayed Jesus. Don't be alarmed. History is often written by the victors, the truth isn't always as it appears in the books. Montesquieu waved his hand and continued, the onset of the Ice Age, along with the collective ascension of the Yihan tribe, released vast amounts of spiritual essence. That is the fundamental cause behind the current explosive emergence of mutants. But before that, throughout the long history of antiquity, spiritual essence was rare but not entirely non-existent. There were always a few exceptionally gifted individuals who could awaken even in such an environment. I've seen many such people. In the history of your Huashu kingdom, there have also been figures who truly amazed me. Montesquieu recalled, take Wang Yangming of the Ming dynasty, for example. His Heart Sutra was, in fact, a form of supernatural ability awakening at an extremely high level. It's just a pity that, constrained by the spiritual energy depletion of his era, he wasn't able to reach the very end. Zhang Yi listened, utterly speechless. If what this old man was saying was true, then he was practically a living history book. Then, how have you managed to live this long? Zhang Yi couldn't help but ask. That is the secret of the Pupil organization, and the reason I can help you. Montesquieu pointed to his own eyes. We've been laying the groundwork for 2,000 years, gathering the wisdom and secrets of countless eras, all to escape the fate of extinction. We've been waiting for someone capable of breaking the chains and leading us against the true darkness. The old man stood up and extended his withered hand toward Zhang Yi, his eyes burning with a flame that had never gone out in 2,000 years. Lord Zhang Yi, we believe you are the one we have been searching for. Let us go together. To touch that distant realm of Omega. The aroma of tea wafted through the air, the steaming black tea reflected in Zhang Yi's deep, composed eyes. He listened quietly as Montesquieu recounted that secret history spanning 2,000 years, from the rise and fall of the Roman Empire to the fires of the Inquisition, from Judas' betrayal to the founding of the Pupil organization. The old man's voice was calm and weathered, as if he were recounting someone else's story. It wasn't until Montesquieu paused to take a sip of tea to moisten his throat that Zhang Yi slowly raised his head and asked the most crucial question. So, can you live forever? In this era where mutants run rampant and genetic locks are constantly being broken, extending one's lifespan is not impossible. But to live for 2,000 years, even in ancient civilizations, was an exceedingly rare occurrence. Unless one belonged to a naturally immortal race like the Dragon Clan, or was a monster. Montesquieu's hand holding the teacup paused slightly. He lifted his eyelids, a hint of indescribable melancholy and self-mockery flickered in those cloudy yet wise eyes. Immortal? No, that is a term far too beautiful. The old man set down his teacup, his gaunt fingers gently caressing the pommel of his staff. I am merely a wandering spirit, a lost soul that refuses to depart. My flesh has rotted away countless times, and my soul is already riddled with holes. I've resorted to certain less than honorable methods to cling to life in the cracks of the physical world, all to await the moment foretold in the prophecy. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes, choosing not to probe further into the old man's so-called methods. Everyone has their secrets, let alone a 2,000-year-old monster. He changed the subject, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Since you've lived this long, and the Pupil organization has been laying the groundwork in secret for 2,000 years, why would you still fear the Holy See? Just how powerful is the Holy See? That it could force you to hide like this for 2,000 years, not even daring to reveal your true form in the moral world? Zhang Yi's current power had already placed him at the pinnacle of Earth, yet his understanding of that vast religious organization spanning the West remained superficial. In his view, they were nothing more than a bunch of fanatics who possessed a few supernatural abilities. As for Montesquieu revealing his identity as Judas, it was clear he harbored a deep-seated grudge against the Holy See. Otherwise, why would he have been recorded in the sacred scriptures and vilified for 2,000 years? Upon hearing the words "the Holy See," Montesquieu's brow furrowed deeply, and the wrinkles on his face seemed to etch themselves even deeper. "Lord Zhang Yi, you greatly underestimate the power of faith," Montesquieu said in a solemn voice. "The Pupil organization has investigated for 2,000 years, sacrificing countless outstanding eyes, yet we have still only managed to glimpse a corner of the Holy See. All we know is that behind the Holy See lies an utterly terrifying source of energy, a power far beyond our comprehension. Otherwise, how could it have stood firm throughout 2 millennia of history, even growing into the world's largest religion? And their ultimate goal has always been but one." Montesquieu's voice took on a chilling edge. "The destruction of the world." "The destruction of the world?" Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. "You mean, resetting the world to zero?" "Exactly. Total annihilation, returning everything to nothingness, and then a reboot." Zhang Yi let out a scoff, leaning back on the sofa as his fingers tapped lightly against the armrest. Chapter 2761, The Winged Clan, 1. "I don't understand. What's the point of doing this? If everyone dies, what good are power and status?" Zhang Yi asked, thoroughly puzzled. "Besides, now that all the races are reviving and ancient civilizations are returning one after another, the Dragon Clan, the Tyrannosaur Clan, and even the Starry Sky Passage. In this era of rising powers, on what grounds does the Holy See believe they have the strength to reset the world? That sounds more like the delusions of a bunch of madmen." "You're right." Montesquieu looked at Zhang Yi, his eyes filled with a hint of pity and fear. "The most fanatical followers of the Holy See are all madmen. True madmen. They do not seek power, nor wealth, nor even immortality. They pursue only that one sacred mission. For this goal, they would not hesitate to sacrifice their own lives, offer up their souls, and even drag the entire world down with them. Never try to use common sense to predict the logic behind a group of madmen." Montesquieu summed it up in a single sentence. Zhang Yi fell silent. He thought of the fanatics he had encountered before. Their frenzied gazes were truly chilling. Of course, a group of madmen alone cannot bring about the end of the world. Montesquieu shifted the subject and dropped a bombshell. "The most critical source of intelligence we currently possess is this: the Holy See is not fighting alone. They have formed a deep partnership with an ancient civilization that is extremely powerful, one might even call it terrifying. That civilization is known as the Winged Clan. In ancient Western texts, they are known by an even more widely recognized name, Angel." "Angel? As in, angels?" Zhang Yi's eyes narrowed. "Exactly, the very angels people speak of." Montesquieu nodded. "These angels are not the angels you think they are. This is a massive historical misunderstanding. The concept of angel did not originally originate in the West, but rather in the Huaxu kingdom. Just like the term God, which was originally a title for the supreme deity in the ancient language of Huaxu, it was later appropriated by Western missionaries. The so-called angels are actually the winged people recorded in ancient Huaxu texts. The classic of mountains and seas states, "The kingdom of the winged people lies to its southeast, its people have long heads and bodies covered in feathers. They are the descendants of the 4th generation Arcs." Information from his earlier exchange with White Dragon flashed rapidly through Zhang Yi's mind. The 4th generation, the Arc civilization. That was an exceptionally glorious era in the history of Earth, and the elite of the Arcs were none other than the Winged Clan. They possessed pure white wings and wielded the power of light and heat, In that era, they were the absolute rulers of the skies. The Dragon Clan once mentioned this to me. Zhang Yi said in a deep voice, the strength of the Wing Clan is no less than that of the Dragon Clan. Exactly. Montesquieu sighed. Just imagine, if there were a legion of angels whose power rivaled that of the Dragon Clan, combined with a group of fanatical followers spread across the globe who were fearless in the face of death. Wouldn't their goal of destroying the world become highly likely? The atmosphere in the room grew heavy instantly. Zhang Yi finally understood why Montesquieu had been in hiding for 2,000 years. Facing an enemy of this caliber, the Pupil organization would likely be wiped out in an instant if exposed. I see. Zhang Yi nodded, accepting the explanation. No wonder the Pope has always lived in seclusion. Even after the revival of the countless races, the Holy See still managed to retain its territories on the Eurocontinent. So there was a hidden ace up their sleeve all along. He looked at Montesquieu, his gaze regaining its sharpness. The intelligence you provided is indeed valuable. But what concerns me more is, you just said you could help me become an Omega. If you can't even handle the Holy See, what ability do you have to help me take that final step? This was the question most on Zhang Yi's mind. Above the king class lies the Omega. That is the pinnacle of existence, the true realm of the gods. Although Zhang Yi was powerful now, he could sense that his strength was still far from sufficient. Facing the higher-tiered beings of this world, facing the Drucker divine race that had brought down one era after another, only by reaching the Omega would he possess the ability to defend himself. Montesquieu paused for a moment. He had originally thought Zhang Yi would be intimidated by the secrets of the Holy See and the Winged Clan, but he never expected Zhang Yi's focus to shift so quickly, and so pragmatically. Heh. The old man shook his head and chuckled, a hint of mystery in his smile. Lord Zhang Yi, you are too impatient. The time for me to assist you has not yet come. What do you mean? Zhang Yi frowned, a hint of irritation in his voice. Are you just stringing me along? You old fool, hand over the secret technique already. I see you're courting your own death. No, I am certainly not stringing you along. Montesquieu said solemnly, the path to godhood requires not only the accumulation of power, but also opportunity and a key. Though your power is immense now, you still lack depth. You've just endured a world-shaking battle. While your combat prowess has skyrocketed, your foundations remain unstable. You need time to digest, to meditate, and to grasp the essence of the laws. As for the help I mentioned, the old man pointed to his own eyes, then to the sky. When you finally stand before that door and find you cannot open it, I will hand you that key. Giving it to you now would do more harm than good. Another one of these cryptic types. Zhang Yi felt a bit speechless inside, but he could also sense that Montesquieu wasn't lying. At this level, some things truly cannot be put into words. All right then. Settling down and meditating. Zhang Yi shrugged. It sounds like the kind of practice an old monk would do. But that is indeed my current weakness. His power had surged too rapidly in such a short time, he truly needed time to stabilize his cultivation, especially since his spirit had been shaken by the Nightmare Clan's assault. He needed even more time to recuperate. However, Montesquieu changed the subject, a glint of sharpness flashing in his cloudy eyes. Although the matter with Omega can't be rushed for now, there is one thing I believe we can collaborate on immediately. Are you referring to the Starry Sky Passage? Zhang Yi realized instantly. At a time like this, there was no other reason he would have been summoned. The eyes of the entire world were now focused there. Exactly. Montesquieu smiled. According to our observations of the universe, the Starry Sky Passage will arrive in 2 years' time. It is filled with unknown dangers, but also with the legacy of a past civilization. Although the Pupil organization isn't skilled in direct combat, we possess unique advantages in intelligence gathering, deciphering ancient ruins, and circumventing certain special rules. We can form an alliance and venture there together. Chapter 2762, The Winged Clan, 2. It wasn't until this moment that Zhang Yi fully saw through this old fox's true intentions. The so-called guidance of Omega and the secret lore of the Holy See were all just a setup. Montesquieu's real goal was to hitch a ride on Zhang Yi's big ship and get a piece of the pie in the Starry Sky Passage. After all, given the strength Zhang Yi had demonstrated so far, coupled with his alliance with the Dragon Clan, he was undoubtedly the strongest contender for entering the Starry Sky Passage. That old guy's got some sharp calculations. Zhang Yi chuckled inwardly, but he didn't call him out on it. An extra ally meant an extra avenue of opportunity, especially an old hand like the Pupil organization, which had survived for 2,000 years, who were absolute experts in exploring ruins. An alliance? Zhang Yi lifted his teacup, took a light sip, and let a meaningful smile spread across his face. He neither agreed nor refused immediately. We'll see when the time comes. If you can keep up with me, that is. Upon hearing this, Montesquieu smiled as well. He knew this was tacit approval. Outside the window, the sea breeze swept through the maple grove, rustling softly. A new strategic layout for the future was quietly set in motion amidst this seemingly casual conversation. After bidding farewell to the 2,000-year-old ghost chairman, Zhang Yi led his group away from Oyster Island, situated in the crevice between the physical world and the void. As they passed through the golden space door, the salty sea breeze was instantly replaced by the dry air characteristic of Tianhai City. Gazing at the familiar steel jungle and the bustling scenes of reconstruction before them, everyone felt as if they had stepped into a different era. What an incredible old man! Brian glanced back at the spatial ripples that had already vanished and exclaimed, "Every time I meet the president, it feels like I'm flipping through a thick history book." Professor Da Vinci shot a glance at this dog who liked to act all profound and said coldly, "Aren't you just trying to say he's an old geezer?" "Hey, bro! We're all cultured people here, let's keep it civil." "Zhang, don't you think I've got a point?" Zhang Yi didn't respond, but turned to look at the eccentric genius beside him who was still fiddling with the portable analyzer. "Professor Da Vinci?" Zhang Yi asked, a touch of curiosity in his voice. "As someone standing at the pinnacle of human intelligence, why did you choose to join the Pupil organization? That Montesquieu may be mysterious, but he seems more like a charlatan." "A charlatan? Oh, no, no, no." Da Vinci didn't even look up, a blue light flickering in his cybernetic eye. "Mr. Montesquieu is a charismatic leader. Of course, that isn't the main reason." He paused his work, lifted his head, and a very real smile spread across his almost grotesque face. Then he curled his fingers into a classic money gesture. "The main reason is, the Pupil organization is wealthy. Extremely wealthy." Zhang Yi was speechless. Moreover, their intelligence network spans the globe, even penetrating the inner workings of many ancient civilizations. "For my research, this is an opportunity one simply cannot refuse." Da Vinci shrugged his shoulders and said matter-of-factly, "Research is very expensive, especially my projects." He added with a touch of resentment, "Columbia does provide funding too, but those capitalists are such a pain. They're always demanding financial reports and conversion rates. But at the Pupil organization, as long as you're a genius, you can squander resources without a care in the world." "Is it really that simple?" Zhang Yi was somewhat surprised. "It's that simple." Da Vinci pointed to his head. "Everyone recruited into the Pupil organization is either a madman or a genius who has reached the pinnacle of their field. People like us are hard to brainwash with that vague, ethereal stuff religion spouts. Faith? Ha, that's just psychological comfort sought by the weak in their suffering and poverty. For us, truth and knowledge are the only gods." Zhang Yi nodded, the reasoning was sound, and very Da Vinci. "So, what are your plans now? Heading back to Columbia to report?" Zhang Yi asked. "Go back? No, it's too boring there." Da Vinci suddenly leaned in close to Zhang Yi, his dead fish eyes almost touching Zhang Yi's face, a fanatical gleam in his gaze. "Hey, Zhang! I want to stay in Tianhai City for a while." He rubbed his hands together vigorously and said with a grin, it seems you've managed to get your hands on quite a bit of ancient civilization's artifacts again. Otherwise, how could the Huashu Kingdom's overall strength have improved so rapidly? Let me broaden my horizons. Besides, my staying here will be of great help to you. I've toured your biology lab. While the equipment is decent, your embryo cultivation processes and gene editing algorithms are so crude they're practically like cavemen cracking walnuts with stones. I can help you optimize them, and even boost the probability of mutant awakenings. You? Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow, instantly intrigued. Professor Da Vinci's intelligence was on par with Yang Xinxin's. It was just that they followed different paths. Yang Xinxin loved manipulating people and orchestrating wars. Da Vinci, on the other hand, loved delving into science and coming up with all sorts of crazy inventions. Otherwise, the mutant dog Brian wouldn't have been created. Right now, his team certainly lacked a talent like Professor Da Vinci. If he had joined Zhang Yi's team earlier, there's a good chance Uncle Yu wouldn't have gone down the cyberpunk route. He would have been modified into a super beast type instead. What's the most precious thing in the 21st century? Talent. Though tempted, Zhang Yi couldn't help but ask, will that old fox Morgan let you go? You're Columbia's chief scientist, not a freelancer. Let me correct you, I just work for them, I haven't sold myself to them. Da Vinci curled his lip dismissively, his tone arrogant. In this world, I choose my bosses. Bosses don't choose me. Right now, I see a bright future for you. You possess that potential to shatter the old order. And I'm very interested in the technology you brought back from Mars. Zhang Yi looked at this mad scientist, his mind racing with calculations. Although Tianhai City had Liu Karen, the mechanical genius, and Yang Xinxin, the superbrain, it did indeed lack a master-level figure like Da Vinci in the fields of biological genetic engineering and certain fundamental theoretical research. If he could be persuaded to stay, even if only as a part-timer, it would be a massive boost to the Huashu Kingdom's technological advancement. Deal. Zhang Yi smiled and extended his hand toward him. You can stay. In exchange, I'll grant you access to some of the technical documentation on the Sand Raider civilization. Of course, only the non-core parts. Zhang Yi added, grinning like a shrewd businessman. If you want to see the core technologies, that will depend on your future performance. Chapter 2763, Luo Qiao, 1. No problem. Da Vinci excitedly shook Zhang Yi's hand. As long as there's something new to research, I'd even be happy to sleep on the lab floor. Watching Da Vinci's jubilant retreating figure, Zhang Yi knew he'd just scored another top-tier worker for free. However, for his first assignment, he chose to send Professor Da Vinci to the Earth Centipede Farm. As Tianhai City's precious origin supply base, the Earth Centipede Farm was growing in scale by the day. Origin below the Epsilon level could be mass-produced as long as there was sufficient energy. Consequently, the average combatant in the Volt Shadow Troop was at the top-tier Delta level. However, on high-level battlefields, combat power of this caliber wasn't exactly useless, it was practically non-existent. Only by reaching the Epsilon tier did one barely qualify to play a role in large-scale warfare. Otherwise, they were no more useful than a few mechanical life forms, at least those were tough, durable, and fearless of death. The first task Zhang Yi assigned to Professor Da Vinci was to create an Epsilon-level Earth centipede. Professor Da Vinci knew this was Zhang Yi's test for him, so he gladly accepted. However, he also made a request of his own. I want to participate in your embryo laboratory as well. Why? Zhang Yi asked, puzzled. To everyone's surprise, a deeply unsettling smirk spread across Professor Da Vinci's face. I want to experiment. I want to see what emerges when we perform a fusion. What exactly is the Creator's definition of human? How much genetic material from other life forms must be integrated into the human genome before it can be deemed human? To obtain ether fragments. His eyes grew increasingly intense and frenzied, he couldn't help but jump up and down, gesturing wildly with both middle fingers pointed toward the sky. If we could uncover the Creator's underlying logic and directly create an army of Epsilon-class soldiers, wouldn't that be even better? Zhang Yi's eyes widened. He was stunned by Professor Da Vinci's insane idea. But soon, Zhang Yi broke into a smile. All right, go ahead and do it. As long as you can pull it off, I'll fully support you with whatever resources you need. Trust those you employ, don't employ those you doubt. That was Zhang Yi's style. He had been back in Tianhai City for less than a day. Early the next morning, an encrypted email arrived on Zhang Yi's private terminal. The sender made no attempt to conceal their identity. The subject line was blunt: Spirit Clan, Luo Qiao. The Spirit Clan? Zhang Yi sat at the dining table, wearing a tight-fitting black top and barefoot on a thick carpet, sipping porridge while reading the message on the holographic screen. The Spirit Clan. He didn't have a strong impression of this race. At the Grand Assembly of 10,000 races 5 years ago, the Spirit Clan had attended, but they remained silent throughout the proceedings, neither aggressive like the Tyrannosaur clan nor meek and submissive like certain smaller tribes. They were typical neutral parties, harboring no obvious hostility toward the sixth generation of humanity, yet showing no particular affinity either. They were like a group of ghosts drifting outside the realm of the mundane. They wished to visit Tianhai City. Zhang Yi casually forwarded the message to Yang Xinxin, then took a sip of his preserved egg and lean pork congee. Yang Xia's cooking skills were getting better and better. The dishes were visually appealing, aromatic, and delicious. Most importantly, they left him feeling energized and restored his stamina. Xinxin, what do you think? Yang Xinxin glanced at it and said casually, what else could it be? It's probably about intelligence regarding the Starry Sky Passage. The bait you dropped in your live stream was too tempting, even the neutral faction couldn't sit still. Should we meet them? Yes, of course we should. Zhang Yi wiped his mouth, a gleam flashing in his eyes. We'll be dealing with many ancient civilizations from now on. Since I plan to use the Starry Sky Passage to set a trap, we can't just work in isolation. If we refuse to engage, it'll only make us look guilty and might even provoke unnecessary hostility. Besides, I want to see just how much this so-called Spirit Clan is really worth. Zhang Yi replied to the email, accepting their request for a visit. The next morning. Tianhai City Port. Although it had endured a major battle, restoration work at the port was progressing rapidly. At that moment, the sea was calm, shrouded only in a faint morning mist. Zhang Yi arrived at the pier accompanied by Yang Xinxin, Lu Karen, and several key members of the Volt Shadow Troop. There was no grand welcome ceremony, no red carpet, and no flowers. However, around the pier, squadrons of fully armed sand raiders were patrolling in an orderly fashion, and the faint roar of fighter jet engines could be heard in the sky. It was a silent deterrent, a display of strength for the visitors. They're here. Zhang Yi's gaze turned toward the horizon. In the distance, a massive wake was rapidly approaching across the water. Surprisingly, though nothing was visible to the naked eye and only a blurry shadow appeared on the radar, this wake was clearly cutting through the waves. It wasn't until the ship entered within a few hundred meters of the harbor that everyone could vaguely make out its outline. It was a massive, entirely transparent vessel. It appeared to be made of some special liquid material, blending perfectly with the surrounding seawater. Not only did it provide optical camouflage, but it also seemed capable of blocking most detection waves. If it hadn't revealed itself, ordinary defense systems would never have detected it. Optical camouflage combined with fluid materials? Interesting. Lu Karen pushed her goggles up, a glint of geeky fascination flashing in her eyes. The transparent vessel glided silently toward the shore, making no sound at all. Once it had docked at the port, a streak of light flashed, and the gangway lowered. Immediately afterward, a slender figure stepped slowly off the ship. It was a man who looked extremely young. His appearance was virtually indistinguishable from that of a sixth-generation human. He wore a well-tailored black overcoat, his hands casually tucked into his pockets. Yet he possessed distinct non-human features. His skin was exceptionally pale, almost translucent, revealing faint blue veins beneath. His ears were pointed, like those of a legendary elf. Most striking were his eyes, devoid of pupils, they were a pure, profound black, resembling two miniature black holes. 6 luminous fish hovered in mid-air around his body. These fish were not physical entities, but some form of spiritual energy. They swirled and glided joyfully around him, emitting a soft glow. Spirit Clan, Luo Qiao. He didn't seem dangerous, on the contrary, he exuded a natural warmth, like the older brother next door. Nice to meet you. It's better to meet in person than to hear about someone, Lord Chaos. Luo Qiao walked up to Zhang Yi, bowed slightly, and a gentle smile played in his jet-black eyes. Chapter 2764, Luo Qiao, 2. I am Luo Qiao of the Spirit Clan. Please forgive my abrupt intrusion. Not at all. Zhang Yi extended his hand and gave the other a light shake. The touch was slightly cool, like touching a piece of smooth jade. It is our honor to have a friend from the Spirit Clan visit Tianhai City. Please. Zhang Yi stepped aside, ushering Luo Qiao into the reception room that had been prepared in advance. Inside the reception room, the host and guest took their seats, and tea and refreshments were served. Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, and Zhou Qir all welcomed him together. Luo Qiao did not possess the arrogance often associated with ancient races. His speech and demeanor were impeccable, even refined. After offering a few simple compliments to Zhang Yi and praising the speed of Huashu Kingdom's reconstruction, he got straight to the point. Lord Zhang Yi, let's not beat around the bush. I have come here bearing the sincerity of my entire clan to propose a deal with you. Luo Qiao's dark eyes fixed on Zhang Yi, and the few spirit fish swimming beside him fell silent. We are very interested in the upcoming Starry Sky Passage. To our knowledge, you are currently the only person who has had close contact with that place and may even possess some internal information. The Spirit Clan hopes to exchange some useful intelligence with you. Of course, we won't take it for free. As he spoke, Luo Qiao gave a light snap of his fingers. The air behind him rippled, and an exquisite metal box materialized out of thin air, landing on the table. The box opened, and a wave of energy so dense it seemed almost tangible instantly filled the entire room. Inside, dozens of fist-sized crystals were neatly arranged. These crystals shimmered in a dreamlike purple, as if nebulae were swirling within them. These are high-concentration spiritual energy crystals, Luo Qiao said with a smile. The energy contained in each one is equivalent to the annual output of a small nuclear power plant. Moreover, this energy is extremely pure and can be absorbed directly by living organisms or precision machinery. Lu Karen's eyes lit up instantly. This is a real treasure. Not only could it be used to enhance the Sand Raiders, but it could even serve as a backup power source for the Dreamer. Zhang Yi glanced at the box, but his face betrayed no trace of greed. After all, for him, energy was something he had in abundance these days. Luo Qiao's attitude was very friendly, which made Zhang Yi feel somewhat favorably toward him. But that didn't mean he would give in without reservation. I appreciate Mr. Luo Qiao's sincerity. Zhang Yi tapped his fingers lightly on the table, seemingly weighing the pros and cons. In truth, all of this was exactly as he and Yang Xinxin had anticipated. Long before they even began their return journey through the cosmos, they had specifically prepared, or rather, compiled, a set of special materials for precisely this situation. They were just waiting for an ancient civilization to come inquiring for intelligence so they could hand it over. The contents were a mix of truth and fiction. After all, other civilizations knew nothing about the Starry Sky Passage and wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Since the Spirit Clan is being so generous, I can't be stingy either. Zhang Yi nodded to Yang Xinxin. Yang Xinxin understood and took out the data disk they had prepared long ago, inserting it into the projector. These are some images I recorded while exploring the outer reaches of the Starry Sky Passage. Zhang Yi pointed at the awe-inspiring blue double helix corridor in the holographic projection and spoke slowly. This set of data wasn't entirely fabricated. A mix of truth and falsehood is the most sophisticated lie. Zhang Yi showcased the grandeur of the Starry Sky Passage, the shattered spatial bubbles on its periphery, and even some blurry, terrifying spirit entities wandering within. All of this was real, intended to bolster credibility. But the crux of the matter was this: he had concealed the terrifying lethality of those spirit entities, capable of instantly obliterating the demon god armor, as well as the overwhelming density of death lurking in the depths of the corridor. At the same time, he had, of course, added his own touches. He had casually marked certain special energy nodes within the data, labeling them as entrances to the Omega staircase. He also used Yang Xinxin's technical expertise to simulate an energy reaction spectra resembling superuniverse matter. A mix of truth and fiction, the images were intentionally blurred to evoke a sense of mystery and vastness, as if some high-energy substance were present. This indeed caused Luo Qiao's eyes to widen slightly, and the fist resting on his knee tightened imperceptibly. "Mr. Luo Qiao, I must warn you." Zhang Yi looked at Luo Qiao, who was engrossed in the display, his tone becoming exceptionally serious and earnest. "Although I have approached the starry sky passage, I can sense that inside. It is extremely dangerous. That danger even makes a black knight like me feel a chill in my heart. That is why I did not dare to venture deep inside at the time." "But..." Zhang Yi shifted his tone, a hint of perfectly measured fervor and regret flickering in his eyes. Given the Starry Sky Clan's power, that civilization must have produced more than one Omega-level being. This is a race even the Creator fears. Within their relics, even if we were to find just a single clue regarding an Omega-level mutant's cultivation methods, or a single damaged piece of advanced civilization machinery, it would be an unimaginably vast treasure for us mutants who are still groping in the dark. This document contains my speculation on the location of that Omega staircase. As for whether it's accurate, I can't guarantee that." Luo Qiao listened intently, a flash of sharpness occasionally flickering in his jet-black eyes. He didn't fully trust Zhang Yi's words, but there were certain things he had seen with his own eyes that he simply couldn't doubt. The data Zhang Yi provided was simply too detailed. Those spatial parameters and energy fluctuation charts were clearly not something one could fabricate out of thin air. Moreover, Zhang Yi's conflicted attitude, wanting to go yet afraid to go, was entirely plausible. Zhang Yi spread his hands, adopting a sincere expression. "It is a place of immense risk and opportunity. I have actually attempted to explore it myself, but unfortunately, my strength is not yet sufficient, and our Huashu kingdom lacks the necessary resources. So, I back down. Because I cannot afford to be harmed. If something were to happen to me, my entire clan would be doomed." Zhang Yi sighed, his expression tinged with regret. "If the burden weren't so heavy, perhaps I really would have considered taking a chance." These words made Luo Qiao nod in agreement. The explanation made perfect sense. After all, not everyone possesses such a strong spirit of adventure. "Thank you very much, Lord Zhang Yi." Luo Qiao stood up, solemnly put away the data disk, and wore a satisfied smile. "This intelligence is crucial for the Spirit Clan. Your honesty has earned the Spirit Clan's friendship. Those energy stones are yours. It's been a pleasure working with you." Zhang Yi also smiled as he stood up to shake hands. "If the time comes when we, too, enter the Starry Sky Passage, I hope we can cooperate." Chapter 2765, Spoils of War, 1. After seeing Luo Qiao off, Zhang Yi looked at the box of high-concentration energy stones and casually tossed it to Lu Karen. "Take it. Give your precious robots a little treat. This stuff is just icing on the cake for me, but it's a real power boost for them." "Thanks, boss." "Long live the boss." Lu Karen cheered, hugging the box and running off. Watching this scene, Yang Xinxin's lips curled into a sly smile. "Brother, this Luo Qiao seems pretty smart. He won't believe everything you say, but he's definitely tempted. Because greed is human nature." Zhang Yi said calmly, his gaze drifting out the window. Smart people are often more confident and trust their own judgment. When they catch a glimpse of that sliver of hope to become gods, all reason gives way to desire. Over the next few days, Tianhai City seemed to become the center of the entire world. One after another, envoys from ancient civilizations and high-ranking officials from human nations came to pay their respects. There were merfolk from the deep sea, giant eagles from the high mountains, and even the Knights of the Round Table from Britannia. Even the sealed realm of Fremons sent a representative to inquire about the starry sky passage. Zhang Yi welcomed them all without exception. His demeanor remained consistently aloof, maintaining the dignity of a powerful figure, yet he generously shared the meticulously prepared, and half-true, half-false, materials with every faction that arrived with sincerity and resources. Such a sensible approach naturally won the favor of most factions. But Zhang Yi wasn't foolish. Each time, he would subtly let the representatives know that while the starry sky passage might hold immense treasures, it might also harbor immense dangers. He would even kindly warn them not to venture there lightly. Yet, when the stakes are high enough, many people are willing to overlook the dangers lurking behind them. Seeing those pairs of eyes burning with intense desire, Zhang Yi knew they were determined to go to the starry sky passage. As this information spread, the entire circle of powerful figures on Earth was set ablaze. The legend of the Omega Staircase grew more and more credible, more and more mythical with each retelling. A vast net, fueled by Zhang Yi's efforts, had already been quietly cast, awaiting the grand catch 2 years hence. Moreover, just as Zhang Yi had anticipated, there were other forces at work behind the scenes besides them. This only drove the countless races into a frenzy. Eventually, even those clans that had initially harbored doubts and had no intention of heading to the starry sky passage began to waver. You can choose to doubt it, you can choose not to go. But if you don't go, and your sworn enemy heads to the starry sky passage, only to return with overwhelming power, then your clan is doomed. Zhang Yi is the perfect example. Everyone could see clearly how, through one daring venture after another, he had elevated the Huashu kingdom to a mid-tier power among the myriad clans. How did the 5 great clans meet their end? All other explanations are false. Put simply, it was because Zhang Yi had grown stronger. Even if the 5 great clans hadn't set a trap to eliminate Zhang Yi, sooner or later, he would have found any excuse to wipe them out. Because of this phenomenon, the myriad races now resemble crabs trapped in a bamboo basket, each dragging the other down, with none able to climb out. And since the attention of the myriad races was focused on the starry sky passage, Tianhai City, after the smoke of war had cleared, entered a rare golden age of development. After acquiring vast resources, technologies, and precious historical documents from the 5 ancient civilizations, the entire Huashu kingdom seemed to have been injected with a shot of adrenaline. Countless skyscrapers rose from the ruins. The new cities, built by combining the Titan clan's bioconstruction technology with modern engineering, were not only exceptionally sturdy but also possessed self-repairing ecological recycling systems. On the streets, amidst the bustling crowds, squadrons of Sand Raiders robots could be seen assisting with the transport of heavy loads. The sky was no longer overcast. Several patrol airships, captured from the Ironclad clan and modified, flashed their warning lights, guarding the peace of this land day and night. It was a scene of thriving prosperity, as if a golden age had arrived. Yet, from the top floor of Yunk Manor, Zhang Yi gazed out at the bustling scene below, his eyes perpetually veiled by an unyielding frost. Prosperity is often the prelude to destruction. Zhang Yi's fingers gently traced the cold glass as he muttered to himself. He knew full well that the current peace was merely the calm before the storm. One might even say it was an extremely fragile balance. For he held too many explosive secrets in his hands. Ling's mortal vessel, this was the greatest legacy left by the Yihen tribe, the key to ascension to godhood that all ancient civilizations had longed for. The slaying of Yin Yen, this had forged an unending blood feud between him and the enigmatic and unpredictable Nightmare clan. Forcing back Qingsong, this had placed him squarely on the Tyrannosaur clan's hit list. Although the Dragon clan is currently holding the line for us, and those old fools are too cautious to act openly, this is by no means a long-term solution. Zhang Yi turned back to his desk, staring at the areas marked with red danger dots on the holographic map. Rely on a mountain, and it may collapse. Rely on a person, and they may run away. In this dark forest, the only one I can rely on is myself. 2 years left. Zhang Yi's gaze drifted toward the vast, starry sky. All ancient civilizations are preparing for the starry sky passage in 2 years' time. In their eyes, this is the greatest opportunity, and for me, it's a golden opportunity to catch my breath. Within 2 years, I must hone all my trump cards to perfection. Otherwise, the moment that so-called ghost ship docks, it will be the day I die. 300 meters underground, in a top-secret laboratory. This was Liu Karen's domain, the beating heart of the Huashu Kingdom's technological infrastructure. At that moment, Liu Karen, wearing tactical goggles, was busy at a massive anti-gravity workbench. Hovering at the center of the workbench were 2 pieces of armor, shattered yet still radiating an astonishing aura. One was the wreckage of the ironclad clan leader Jianzhou's ultimate single-soldier mech. Even in its shattered state, the black metal still possessed a texture that seemed to devour light. The other was a fragment of black armor stripped from Nightmare Yan, with a faint, dark spiritual mist swirling around it. "How's it going? Is it working?" Zhang Yi walked into the lab and asked Liu Karen, who was working up a sweat. "Phew." Liu Karen took off her goggles and wiped the sweat from her forehead. Though exhausted, her large eyes sparkled with fervor. "Boss, this is absolutely incredible." Pointing at the 2 piles of debris, she exclaimed excitedly, "The metal used by the ironclad clan actually has a liquid crystal lattice structure. This means it possesses nearly infinite physical resistance and self-repair capabilities. And Yin Yan's armor is even more mind-boggling. It isn't even physical matter, but rather solidified psychic energy." Chapter 2766, Spoils of War, 2. I've tested it. Even if you were to blast them with your Dark Realm current, these 2 items would hold out for a long time before collapsing. That defensive power is simply incredible. Especially the Nightmare Clan's armor, it naturally possesses resistance to psychic attacks. If we could integrate it into the White Emperor battle suit, you wouldn't be so at a disadvantage when facing those illusionists in the future. Zhang Yi nodded. The weapons and armor of these top-tier warriors from ancient civilizations were undoubtedly the culmination of their entire civilization's technological achievements. Just like the White Emperor battle suit. After all, when a civilization reaches its limits, it relies instead on the combat prowess of its top individuals. Can you integrate them into the White Emperor battle suit? Yes. Liu Karen nodded firmly, then summoned a complex holographic blueprint. "But, boss, I need to be honest with you." Her expression grew slightly more serious. "Although we seem very powerful now, we've barely tapped into 5% of the technological legacy left behind by that engineer of the Yihen tribe. That civilization's technology is far too advanced. Many of its theories completely overturn existing physics. It's like asking cavemen to build a nuclear reactor." "But..." Liu Karen clenched her little fists. "Over the next 2 years, as long as I don't take a break, I'm confident I can master the key parts. Not only can I seamlessly integrate these 2 suits of armor into the White Emperor battle suit, but I can also elevate our Huashu Kingdom's military system by several levels." "You don't need to go that far." Zhang Yi smiled as he ruffled her hair, his gentle gaze tinged with a touch of concern. "Don't wear yourself out. I believe in you. Actually, things aren't that dire yet." These days, Liu Karen really was spinning like a top, working non-stop. There was no way around it. That's just how it is when you reach the late stages of the tech tree. Zhang Yi relied too heavily on her to develop technology, and as for the others, he didn't trust them. "By the way, boss, what are you planning to name the new battle suit after the fusion?" Liu Karen asked eagerly. Zhang Yi looked at the floating black and white materials and pondered for a moment. Since the fused battle suit would be black and white, calling it the White Emperor battle suit wouldn't quite fit. How about the Zebra battle suit? That sounds a bit tacky. Since it fuses the ultimate of the physical with the barrier of the spirit, let's call it Divine Destruction. Divine Destruction. Great name. After arranging for the equipment upgrades, Zhang Yi entered seclusion once more. This time, he chose the ultimate isolation chamber beneath Yunk Manor as his seclusion site. It featured the highest level of physical isolation and energy shielding. No one but himself could enter. Of course, there was one exception. Ling. This human vessel from the Yihen tribe was currently floating cross-legged in midair, munching on a bag of potato chips with a crunching sound, showing absolutely no aura of a master. But in Zhang Yi's eyes, she was the most mysterious mentor in the universe. The power system of the super-universe is far more vast than you can imagine. Ling munched on her chips as she casually offered guidance to Zhang Yi, who was in the midst of meditation. Ordinary mutants merely borrow energy. Night-level practitioners begin to manipulate it. But once you reach the level of Black Knight, or even approach the threshold of Omega, what truly sets you apart is your ability to interfere with the fundamental structure of the physical world. You're lucky. Or rather, you're a freak. Ling shot Zhang Yi a glance. You possess all three of the highest tier powers: time, space, and antimatter, like the power of the void. These three powers are precisely the cornerstones of this universe's physical world. If, one day in the future, you can fuse and master all three, forget the Tyrannosaur clan. Theoretically, even if you faced a true Omega, you'd stand a fighting chance. Zhang Yi kept his eyes closed as the space around him constantly twisted and folded, as if countless tiny worlds were being born and vanishing beside him. He was attempting to use the power of the void to erode space, then use the power of time to solidify that erosion. It was difficult, like dancing on the edge of a sword. The slightest misstep could trigger a backlash from the laws of the universe. After a long while, Zhang Yi slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a breath of stale air. Ling. I've been pondering something. A shadow of gloom flashed across Zhang Yi's eyes. About the Nightmare Clan. Although Yin Yan is dead, the Nightmare Clan still exists. That race is too bizarre, they're everywhere. Back then, when I fell victim to Yin Yan's nightmare slaughter ability, if it hadn't been for sheer luck, I might never have woken up. Zhang Yi raised his hand and stared at his palm. Even now, when he was utterly exhausted, he would occasionally feel a sense of disorientation. Was everything before his eyes truly real? Or was he still trapped in that ninth-layer dream, dreaming a beautiful dream of defeating Yin Yan? This self-doubt felt like a thorn, deeply embedded in his heart. The Nightmare Clan has other powerful members. At the Starry Sky Passage in 2 years, they will certainly strike against me. Zhang Yi looked at Ling and asked earnestly, "You're from the Yihen tribe, you should know that race's weaknesses. What must I do to completely avoid these mental ambushes? Mental defense gear? Or some special cultivation technique?" Even with the upgraded version of the Divine Destruction battle suit, he couldn't completely nullify mental attacks. Ling stopped eating her potato chips. She brushed the crumbs off her hands, floated in front of Zhang Yi, and gazed at him quietly with eyes that seemed to contain the vastness of the stars and the ocean. "You're overcomplicating things," Ling said calmly. "The Nightmare Clan's abilities are indeed nasty. They rely on dreams and the subconscious to attack. As long as you're conscious, as long as you need rest, there's a chance of being invaded. But to deal with them, there's actually a simplest, most brutal method." "What method?" Zhang Yi asked eagerly. Ling tilted her head, a teasing curve forming at the corner of her mouth. "Just don't sleep." "Huh?" Zhang Yi froze. "Don't sleep? What kind of ridiculous suggestion is that? Humans, even mutants, need sleep to restore their mental energy. Going without sleep for too long leads to mental exhaustion, even collapse. Wouldn't that just give the Nightmare Clan an opening?" Seeing Zhang Yi's dumbfounded expression, Ling snorted lightly. "You fool. Your current life tier is already that of a Black Knight, your body and brain have long since transcended the realm of ordinary mortals. So-called sleep is merely a primitive mechanism for the brain to clear metabolic waste and reorganize memories. For you now, it can be completely replaced by deep meditation. In deep meditation, your consciousness remains awake, even sharper than usual. Any external mental intrusion in that state would be as conspicuous as a drop of ink on a blank sheet of paper." Zhang Yi's eyes gradually brightened. Meditation. As a substitute for sleep? Chapter 2767, Return, 1. That's right. Ling nodded. And you can use drugs or technology to force your brain to remain in an overclocked state of wakefulness. As long as your primary consciousness never fades, dreams can never form. No matter how powerful the Nightmare Clan is, they can't drag someone with their eyes wide open into a dream. That is, absolute clarity. Zhang Yi felt as if a light bulb had gone off in his head. That's right. He had been stuck in this mental rut, thinking about how to defeat his enemies within dreams. But what if he simply stopped dreaming altogether? I understand. Zhang Yi took a deep breath, a fierce gleam flashing in his eyes. He needed to have Zhou Qi develop a drug, a potent stimulant, to keep his mind in a state of perpetual wakefulness. That way, when he faced the Nightmare Clan's dream assaults in the future, he would have the confidence to counter them. West of the Brahma continent lay a barren wasteland shrouded in mist year-round. This was a forbidden zone for the living, the domain of the Nightmare Clan. Above ground, withered trees twisted like ghostly claws, and black swamps emitted hallucinogenic fumes. Beneath this wasteland lay a vast and intricate underground kingdom. The Temple of Nightmares. Inside this palace, built entirely of inverted obsidian, sunlight never penetrated, only faint ghostly flames flickered. In the grand hall, 3 massive thrones float side by side in the void. Upon these thrones sit 3 beings exuding a suffocating aura. In the center is a figure shrouded entirely in a wide black robe, with only a pair of pale, withered hands exposed. He is the king of the Nightmare Clan, Yanjia. To the left stood a woman with a seductive figure and a succubus-like face, yet trailing a scorpion's tail behind her, Mengimo. To the right was a massive, flesh-like creature covered entirely in eyes, Mialuo. At that moment, the atmosphere within the hall was oppressively terrifying. Yin Yan is dead. Yanxia's voice was hoarse and grating, like the screech of something grinding from the depths of hell. That chaos. Used some kind of rules category method to execute him. Damn it. Damn it. The hundreds of eyes on Mialuo's body all turned simultaneously, brimming with fury and venom. Yin Yan was the most skilled among us at mental infiltration. Even he fell. If we don't avenge this, how will our Nightmare Clan ever hold our ground among the 10,000 races? I'm going to kill that chaos. Drag him into an endless nightmare and ensure he never finds peace for all eternity. Calm down, Mialuo. The alluring succubus twirled a strand of her hair, an icy gleam in her eyes. Do you want to go and die right now? Can't you see that even Qingcang has been forced to retreat? That old fossil from the Dragon Clan hasn't shown his face, but since Yuan Mo and Yuan Jing have made their stance clear, it means the Dragon Clan is determined to defend Huashu Kingdom to the death. If we launch a full-scale assault on Tianhai City now, we'll be giving the Dragon Clan an excuse to declare war. By then, forget about revenge, our entire race will be wiped out. At the mention of Dragon Clan, Mialuo's violent aura instantly waned. On this earth, there isn't a single ancient race that doesn't fear the Dragon Clan. They were the true rulers who dominated an entire era. Their ancestors had witnessed firsthand, before the collapse of the last era, the battle between the Dragon Clan's Omega-level beings and the Drucker. Several supreme beings fought all the way to the far reaches of the universe, even erasing the Great Tao in the process. Then what do we do? Are we just going to let this go? Mialuo roared in frustration. Of course not. Yanxia, who had remained silent, spoke slowly, a faint green glow flickering in the eyes hidden beneath his hood. Chaos must die. But he cannot die in Huashu Kingdom, nor can he die under our direct assault. Isn't that thing called the Starry Sky Passage supposed to return? Yanxia gave a cold laugh. That is a place chaos must go, no matter what. Moreover, the rules there are chaotic, and it is cut off from the outside world. Even if the Dragon Clan wanted to protect him, they couldn't reach him there. Wait another 2 years. The day the Starry Sky Passage opens will be the day he dies. Upon hearing this, Meng Mo's lips curled into a cruel smile, and she stuck out her crimson tongue to lick her lips. Heh. You're right. We of the Nightmare Clan have never been warriors who charge head-on, we are assassins in the shadows. in an environment filled with the unknown and danger, killing a mere black knight. As long as we're fully prepared, it won't be difficult. I'll prepare a grand funeral for him. A beautiful dream from which he'll never wake. The three sovereigns exchanged glances and reached a consensus. In the darkness, the fangs of malice had already been silently sharpened, waiting only for the prey known as chaos to step into the final trap. Time is the most ruthless yet fairest measure in this universe. 2 years, compared to the vast geological eras or the evolution of stars, is but the blink of an eye. But for the Earth civilization, currently in the throes of drastic transformation, these 2 years were enough to turn the sea into fields. The reconstruction of Tianhai City had long been completed. This city, once ravaged by war, had now evolved into a sci-fi-inspired steel colossus. Inspired by the bioarchitecture of the Titan clan, skyscrapers were no longer cold concrete structures, but semi-biological entities capable of self-breathing and regulating their own temperature, much like plants. On the streets, hover trains glide silently through the air, while the Volt Shadow Patrol, clad in exoskeleton armor, and automated sand raiders work together to maintain order. Yet behind this facade of prosperity, an unprecedented sense of urgency grows heavier with each passing day, weighing heavily on the hearts of all who are aware. It comes from a presence deep within the cosmos. As ancient civilizations and human nations shifted their observational focus entirely toward the cosmos, that colossal entity known as the Starry Sky Passage, finally revealed a glimpse of its menacing form through deep space telescopes beyond the atmosphere. It is a colossal celestial structure beyond description. It is not a spherical planet in the traditional sense, but a tubular corridor extending in a double helix structure, emitting a faint blue glow. It rotates slowly through the cosmos, each rotation stirring gravitational waves across millions of kilometers. Most breathtaking is its sheer size. According to the latest observational data, the total volume of the Starry Sky Passage actually exceeds that of the Sun. When such a colossal entity, possessing enough mass to disrupt the gravitational balance of a galaxy, charges toward the solar system with unstoppable momentum, it is, in itself, a catastrophe of epic proportions. This thing isn't merely passing by the solar system, it's being deliberately steered into the solar system's orbit, and there's a high probability of a direct collision. Chapter 2768, Return, 2. It's simply unimaginable what will happen then. Inside the Tianhai City Observatory, Professor Da Vinci had made this tense assessment while staring at the blue speck on the screen that was constantly growing larger. Yang Xinxin also spoke in a calm tone. It seems to be carrying some kind of extreme hatred, intent on smashing this solar system testing ground, meticulously crafted by the Creator, to smithereens. As for the reason behind it, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin knew it all too well. They had already deciphered the Jiamen records, and Ling had previously told them the truth behind the Starry Sky Clan's annihilation. It was highly likely that they had failed after attempting to break free from the Creator's petri dish of the universe, only to face judgment from a higher dimensional will. Therefore, it was no surprise that, harboring resentment toward the Creator, they sought to destroy the solar system. Faced with a celestial catastrophe of this magnitude, whether it be the proud Dragon Clan, the arrogant Tyrannosaur Clan, or the newly rising Huashu Kingdom, all were forced to reach a tacit consensus. All races must set aside their grievances and join forces in this time of upheaval to break the deadlock. If the gravitational tides and collision risks posed by the Starry Sky Passage are not resolved, forget about competing for treasures, the entire Earth will be flung out of the habitable zone and turned into a dead planet. Tianhai City, the underground core database of Yunk Manor. This is the most highly secured location in the entire Huashu Kingdom. Golden runes flow across the surrounding walls, an information barrier constructed by Yang Xinxin by combining the Yihen tribe's code with modern encryption algorithms. Zhang Yi sat in a large chair, with tens of thousands of holographic text fragments floating before him. These characters were twisted and arcane, resembling the tangled roots of some ancient plant. They were the Jiamen records excavated from the ruins of Takamagara in the Zepin Kingdom. Beside him, Yang Xinxin's eyes glowed with a faint blue light from data streams. Her brain was operating at overclocked speeds, continuously translating these obscure ancient characters into comprehensible Chinese. Analysis progress, 98%. Completed. Yang Xinxin exhaled deeply, massaging her throbbing temples, and slid a compiled document across the table toward Zhang Yi. Brother, the truth might be even crazier than we imagined. Zhang Yi opened the document and scanned it quickly. As he read further, a look of shock gradually spread across his face, a face that had remained impassive even in the presence of powerful Tyrannosaur clan warriors. The Transcender Project. Zhang Yi murmured the key phrase under his breath. According to the Jaman records, the Starry Sky Clan, a glorious civilization born in the previous cosmic era, had discovered the truth of this universe from the very beginning. It was a testing ground kept in captivity by some higher will. All civilizations, whether strong or weak, ultimately could not escape the fate of destruction and harvest. To break free from this manipulated fate, the Starry Sky Clan mobilized the entire clan's strength to launch a colossal project known as the Starry Sky Passage. This project had two primary objectives. First, external. To use the Starry Sky Passage as a super accelerator and dimensional shuttle, tearing through the cosmic barriers to lead their people to a parallel universe, thereby completely escaping the Creator's control. Second, internal. If escape proves impossible, they intend to use high-dimensional technology to forcibly fold and carve out a new world within the existing cosmic space, one independent of the laws of physics. A divine realm entirely under their own dominion. This explains why, after Zhang Yi piloted the demon god armor into the Starry Sky Passage, he encountered so many spherical spaces resembling soap bubbles. What a truly admirable yet tragic race. Zhang Yi couldn't help but exclaim, not only do they want to break out of prison, they even want to build their own houses inside it. It's not just that. Yang Xinxin swiped her finger, bringing up a chilling reconstruction diagram. To adapt to the unknown environments of new worlds or parallel universes, the Starry Sky Clan conducted extensive biological experiments. They attempted to create a perfect new human, a vessel capable of channeling Omega power. Based on what we know of Deng, they likely sought to emulate the Yihen tribe and create the ultimate human. And their test subjects. Zhang Yi stared at the image, his pupils suddenly contracting. In the image, towering creatures with distinct reptilian or elemental features were chained to laboratory tables by massive metal shackles, being dissected and scrutinized by various instruments. Zhang Yi recognized those features all too well. Those were the Drucker. They actually captured and enslaved the Drucker? A chill ran down Zhang Yi's spine. What are the Druckers? They are monsters known as the Immortal Divine Race, cosmic scourges that possess nearly limitless regenerative abilities and feed on desire. Even the Creator cannot completely annihilate them, the only options are to seal them away or keep them in check. Yet, according to the Starry Sky Clan's records, these terrifying Druckers have actually been reduced to prisoners, becoming lab rats and slaves. The Starry Sky Clan's power far exceeds our expectations, Yang Xinxin said in a deep voice. The records mention that they even created weapons capable of suppressing the Drucker's regenerative factors. That is also why the Creator was later forced to personally inflict divine retribution, completely wiping out the Starry Sky Clan. They had touched upon a true taboo, even threatening the Creator's dominion over this universe. No wonder. Zhang Yi leaned back in his chair, a flickering light in his eyes. The Starry Sky Passage. He was beginning to take a greater interest in this place. If, and he emphasized the if, he could truly obtain the Starry Sky Clan's legacy, perhaps he would no longer have to worry about the Drucker's revival in the future. The Starry Sky Clan could even be understood as a more violent version of the Yihen tribe, possessing power comparable to the Yihen tribe, yet even more devoted to violence. That was why they had struck the Drucker people the hardest. If he could uncover the secret behind their suppression of the Drucker, perhaps he would possess a trump card when the 7 kings of the Drucker were eventually revived. No wonder there are so many unspeakable monsters in the Starry Sky Passage. Those are likely not only the vengeful spirits of the Starry Sky Clan, but also the resentment of the Drucker people tortured to death, as well as countless failed experimental subjects. This place is a massive floating grave and biochemical laboratory in the cosmos. Zhang Yi ran his fingers over the back of his hand, a fierce gleam flashing in his eyes. We have to go to the Starry Sky Passage too. Yang Xinxin glanced at Zhang Yi. We can do what the Zepin clan did before. Lure other tribes into it to become our pawns. Then, armed with the intelligence we possess, we'll emerge as the ultimate victors. Chapter 2769, Outwitting Everyone, 1. After obtaining the critical intelligence, Zhang Yi immediately convened a meeting with the core team members. In the conference room, all core team members, including Yang Xinxin, Lu Karen, Zhou Kir, Uncle Yu, Fatty Su, and Liang Yu, were present. Deng Shintong had to attend to other important experiments at the last minute, so he did not join the meeting. As for Brian and Professor Da Vinci, they had not yet earned Zhang Yi's full trust and were therefore not participating in the meeting. Zhang Yi laid bare the true nature of the Starry Sky Passage to everyone. After hearing the explanation, everyone fell silent. Even Fatty Su, usually the most optimistic among them, was now pale as a sheet, having forgotten to even put the potato chips in his mouth. Even the Drucker people are being used as guinea pigs. Fatty Su swallowed hard. With what we've got, would we even be enough to fill their teeth? Even Uncle Yu, the usually passionate middle-aged man, rubbed his chin and said to Zhang Yi, I've always supported your decisions. But compared to those powerful ancient civilizations, our combat strength still falls far short. Even with the intelligence advantage you hold, there's no guarantee of safety. This isn't like you at all. The others looked at Zhang Yi in puzzlement. He had never been one to actively seek out danger. Of course. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. We're not going in head first, only an idiot would do that. Zhang Yi tapped the table, bringing everyone's attention back to him. In terms of raw power, we certainly aren't among the strongest of the 10,000 races. But we have two major advantages, intelligence, and the support of the Dragon Clan. He pulled up the footage from when he had previously piloted the demon god armor into the outer reaches of the Starry Sky Passage. In the footage, the vast white wasteland lay deathly silent. Until the moment the demon god armor activated its space shuttle engine, the surrounding free-floating organisms, which had previously been transparent and invisible, instantly erupted into chaos, tearing the armor to shreds in an instant. Everyone, take a close look. Zhang Yi pointed to the energy readings on the screen. When I first entered, I encountered these organisms as well, but they didn't attack me. They seemed to be sleeping or wandering aimlessly. Their attack was triggered the instant I activated the engine and the energy readings spiked. Yang Xinxin picked up the thread and quickly displayed a set of comparative data on the large screen. Combining this with the biological security protocol from the Jaman records, we can draw a conclusion. These free-floating organisms, the guardians of the Starry Sky Passage, are triggered to attack by two things: intense energy fluctuations and strong life signal emissions. Simply put, as long as you don't casually unleash high-intensity supernatural abilities there, or even suppress your heartbeat and body temperature to a state resembling a corpse, you'll be safe. Upon hearing this conclusion, Uncle Yu's eyes lit up, and he slapped his thigh. Got it. Just play dead. That's pretty much the idea. Zhang Yi nodded. But it's not easy. In an environment teeming with danger, where you could be attacked by other species at any moment, maintaining a silent state is a massive test of mental fortitude and energy control. Still, this is an opportunity for us. A sly smile tugged at the corners of Zhang Yi's mouth. Other ancient civilizations, especially violent races like the Tyrannosaur clan and the Nightmare clan, will instinctively release their aura to intimidate the surroundings the moment they enter, or just use their ultimate moves to clear a path. When that happens, they'll become sitting ducks for these wandering creatures, drawing fire away from us. And we'll just need to slip through like ghosts. Hearing this, everyone exchanged knowing smiles. That's a sneaky move, but I like it, Fatty Su chuckled. So, should we share this intel with the Dragon Clan? Lu Karen asked. Of course, their strength is indispensable. We must acknowledge our own limitations. When it's time to latch onto a powerhouse, we should do just that. Zhang Yi replied without hesitation, the Dragon Clan are our allies, and White Dragon and the others have been more than generous to us. More importantly, in this dungeon, we need a powerful ally who can withstand the frontal pressure. He folded his arms, sat back on the sofa, and said calmly, in short, our plan is straightforward. We'll trade the intelligence we have for the Dragon Clan's military support. Then, we'll cooperate to explore the Starry Sky Passage together. He handed all the materials to the group, instructing them to read through them carefully and commit the details to memory. That way, once they actually enter the Starry Sky Passage, they could avoid many risks. Zhang Yi quickly sent the research report on the trigger mechanisms of free-floating organisms to White Dragon via an encrypted channel. In less than 5 minutes, White Dragon's reply arrived. It consisted of just a few simple words, "Great minds think alike." Attached was a detailed star map of the Starry Sky Passage's outer environment, compiled by the Dragon Clan, along with several potential safe landing sites. Clearly, the Dragon Clan's millennia of heritage were no mere boast, they had also uncovered some insights, even more detailed than what Zhang Yi knew. This exchange of intelligence further solidified the alliance between the two sides. Just as Zhang Yi and his team were preparing for the Starry Sky Passage, a life-or-death gamble was unfolding at another strategic location in Huashu Kingdom, the Deng Biotechnology Garden in the new district of Tianhai City. Ever since that battle 2 years ago, Deng Yuanbo, the head of the Deng family, had made an extremely decisive decision. He relocated all of the Deng family's core assets, personnel, and technology to Tianhai City, binding the family's fate inextricably with Zhang Yi's faction. Today, the Deng family has become the leader in the Huashu Kingdom's biotechnology sector. In a top-secret laboratory 500 meters underground, massive culture tanks stand in rows. Inside are not ordinary clones, but millions of genetically edited special embryos. The genetic templates all come from Epsilon-level mutants. Deng Shintong had once thick-skinnedly approached Zhang Yi, hoping to obtain his genetic material, only to be coldly rejected. As if he was the kind of man who would make you drink chilly water afterward. Caution was his middle name. How could he possibly entrust his genetic information to a stranger? If a rules category ability user got their hands on it, they might just curse him to death on the spot. However, as a compromise, Zhang Yi did provide him with quite a few body parts from powerful foreign races. After all these years of battle, he had slain countless strong opponents, and he had carefully preserved the flesh and blood of even night-level powerhouses. Conveniently, he had Professor Da Vinci and Zhou Qir study them as well, and he'd given some to the Deng family too. Chapter 2770, Outwitting Everyone, 2. Deng technology extracted genetic material from the biological samples and used cloning technology to create a large number of embryos. As for the sole purpose of these embryos, it was to steal the heavenly fire. By leveraging a massive biological base, they sought to steal the ether fragments scattered by the Creator throughout the ether, artificially creating mutants. At that moment, deep within the laboratory, Deng Shintong stood naked beside a transparent pool filled with a high-concentration spiritual essence liquid. 2 years of time had transformed the once arrogant young master of the Deng family into a more composed figure. The former arrogance and haughtiness on his face had now given way to a sense of gravity and caution. He looked at his own body. Though muscular, it still appeared frail in the presence of top-tier powerhouses, and a flicker of resentment crossed his eyes. The gap is growing wider and wider. Deng Shintong clenched his fists, his fingernails digging deep into his palms. He had witnessed with his own eyes how Zhang Yi had evolved from a fellow mutant on equal footing with him into the Black Knight who made the world tremble. He had seen the rapid progress of Yang Xinxin, Lu Karen, and even Uncle Yu. As for himself, though he had worked hard and reached the Epsilon level, he could never quite break through that final barrier to Night level. True, he had reached the Bishop level. With an ability index of 32,000 points, thanks to the resources Zhang Yi had provided and the Deng family's full support, he had barely managed to become a Bishop-level mutant. But now, a mutant of this level could serve at most as a foot soldier in the great war between races, with almost no ability to influence the overall course of the battle. Talent. That word weighed on him like a mountain, crushing him until he could barely breathe. I refuse to settle for being just a logistics manager, and I refuse to spend my life forever gazing up at his back. Deng Shintong turned his head to look at Professor Da Vinci, and Deng Yuan was standing before the control console. Let's begin. Deng Yuanbo looked at his nephew, his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes filled with a mix of concern and reluctance. Shintong, have you thought this through? The mortality rate of the reconstruction experiment is as high as 90%. If it fails, your spirit will collapse. Uncle, if I don't do this, I'll never become a true powerhouse. Deng Shintong smiled calmly. In this magnificent era, the strong are as numerous as trees, and the competition is fierce. I don't want to just play a supporting role to others, I want my own light to shine brilliantly. Even if life is brief, it should still shine with brilliance. So, I'm willing to take the gamble. Professor Da Vinci, standing nearby, seemed quite excited. After all, this was the highest-level human experiment he had ever conducted. The experimental subject was a bishop-level mutant, a biological specimen he simply couldn't have obtained at the Colombian Natural Science Association. Wiping the drool from the corner of his mouth, he said, "Don't worry, burp. With me here, and the genetic stabilizer provided by Zhang Yi, the success rate can be boosted to at least 30%. That's already a high probability for such a gamble. 30%. That's enough." Deng Shintong took a deep breath and stepped into the transparent pool of spiritual essence. Buzz. As the machine activated, countless probes as thin as strands of hair pierced his body. This was no ordinary injection, it was a dismantling of his being on both the physical and spiritual planes. To reshape the spirit body, one must first shatter everything that is fixed and unchanging. It is like regenerating a severed limb. First, the damaged limb must be cut away before a new one can be sewn in. Agonizing pain. Indescribable agony instantly engulfed Deng Shintong's consciousness. It felt as though someone were using a blunt sword to slice his soul piece by piece, then tossing it into a meat grinder to be pulverized into a pulp. The CT force field that had originally enveloped his spiritual body, protecting him from external erosion, was forcibly shattered by this violent technological force. Deng Shintong's consciousness instantly detached from his physical body. When he regained clarity, he found himself falling into a boundless sea of light. He could no longer see his own body, all he saw was a vast, pristine, and limitless ocean of white. Countless points of light floated within the ocean, and he, too, had become one of them. The Sea of Ether. Here, there was no gravity, no time, no pain. Only endless warmth and tranquility. It was as if he had returned to his mother's womb, or as if he were melting into snow under the warm sun. So peaceful. I just want to sleep like this. It was as if a voice were whispering in Deng Shintong's ear. Why resist? Merge with this place. This is the ultimate destination, here lies everything you desire. It was too comfortable. It felt as refreshing as suddenly shedding all burdens and soaking in a hot spring after working non-stop for a month. Forgetting worries, forgetting strife, free from the pressure of responsibility, free from caring about others' opinions. Just like that, he drifted in the ocean of comfort, carefree. Deng Shintong's consciousness began to drift. The edges of his spirit were slowly dissolving, about to become part of this vast sea of light. Just as he was about to lose himself completely, a face suddenly appeared in his mind. It was Zhang Yi's face. That face that always carried a faint hint of mockery, forever composed and unflappable, as if it could withstand even the collapse of the heavens. Deng Shintong, is this the best you can do? Didn't you want to surpass me? If you die here, how do you plan to surpass me? An overwhelming sense of shame and jealousy instantly transformed into a raging inferno, reigniting Deng Shintong's nearly extinguished will. No! I won't die. I won't merge with that damn ether. I am Deng Shintong. I am the man destined to stand at the pinnacle of the world. If I can't even resist a temptation this small, how can I possibly surpass Zhang Yi? He let out a silent roar from the depths of his soul. That intense sense of self forcefully resisted the assimilation of the sea of ether, like a malevolent specter crawling out of the abyss, clutching at that dangling thread. Boom! In the real world, over a month had already passed. Deng Shintong lay in a state of silence, his vital signs sustained solely by nutrient solutions. His brainwaves had long since vanished, as if his soul had left his body. Yet everyone kept vigil day and night, even Professor Da Vinci and Deng Yuanbo, propped up by medication, stared at him without blinking for 24 hours straight. The spirit essence pool suddenly boiled, then exploded. A brand new figure, radiating golden light, rose slowly from the water. His skin was as translucent as jade, and his eyes shone with a golden radiance akin to that of a deity. Deng Shintong could not perceive the passage of time. It felt as though he had wandered in the sea of ether for merely a minute, or perhaps a year. But at this moment, he had truly changed. He was no longer the man he once was. His spirit body had been reshaped, transcending the shackles of his former self. Chapter 2771, The Starry Sky Passage Approaches, 1. Did it work? Deng Yuanbo couldn't help but shed tears of joy, pressing his hands firmly against the lab bench. Professor Da Vinci, however, poured cold water on his enthusiasm. He's merely woken up. Whether it was truly successful remains to be confirmed through further experiments. Deng Shintong looked at his own hands, a confident smile curving his lips. I know. I've already changed. So this is the Sea of Ether. You've been able to connect to that mysterious world all along, haven't you? A realm only geniuses are qualified to touch. The purification and metamorphosis of the soul are truly exquisite. And touching the ether, transcending the ether, that is the very essence of life's evolution. I understand. I understand everything now. Zhang Yi, just you wait. Sooner or later, I'll surpass you. East Sea Region, East Sea City. This is the eastern gateway of Huashu Kingdom, and the front line facing the ocean's mutated creatures. On a desolate sea cliff outside the city, a man clad in a blue and white naval combat uniform sat motionless, like a statue. The sea breeze was biting, laden with salty mist and ice shards, lashing against his unshaven face. Waves crashed against the rocks, producing a deafening roar. Yet he seemed to hear nothing, feel nothing, his eyes fixed only on the distance, gazing at the vast, boundless sea that roared intermittently. A few seagulls even landed unsuspectingly on his shoulders, preening their feathers as if they regarded him as part of nature itself. Li Changgong. This man, once known as the Great Emperor Gochen and the Huashu Kingdom's top powerhouse, had been sitting motionless here for 2 full years. 2 years ago, Zhang Yi's rise was like a mountain, crushing the breath out of every powerhouse of the 6th generation. That power was not merely a lead, but a chasm-like leap beyond. It even made geniuses like King Arthur and Emperor Indra feel profoundly powerless. Resentment, jealousy, and self-doubt once nearly shattered Li Changgong's spirit. He had once lost himself in the struggle for power, causing his strength to stagnate. Until that one time, when he was sent on a diplomatic mission to the Deep Blue Kingdom and had a long conversation with that mutant merman king, Jin. Your sword is too heavy. Jin's words still echoed in his ears. It's not the weight of the sword itself, but the excessive distractions you've burdened it with. Power, fame, profit, the desire to win. All of these are slowing your sword down. If you want speed, you must learn to let go of the unnecessary. In that moment, Li Changgong had an epiphany. He returned to the East Sea, set aside his air of a commander, and treated himself as an ordinary soldier, day after day gazing at the sea and listening to the waves. The sea can calm one's mind, for you come to realize that everything you care about is, in the face of the vast ocean and nature, actually insignificant. He quieted his mind, focused his spirit, and carefully contemplated how to liberate his own abilities. Zhang Yi had shared the lunar people's meditation technique with everyone. He had practiced it himself and benefited greatly from it. After a long time, he gradually came to realize something. Rather than striving to surpass others and viewing Zhang Yi as his goal, it would be better to first try to surpass himself. There's no need to strive for perfection in every aspect. If one can excel in a single domain, that is strength enough. Thus, he no longer sought to inflict widespread destruction, nor did he pursue flashy techniques. He pursued only one thing: speed. Speed taken to the extreme, speed that transcends sound, transcends space, and even touches the very edge of time. For 2 years, the military sword in his hand never left its sheath. He compressed and internalized all his sharpness, all his killing intent, and all his vitality, concealing them within the seemingly ordinary gun barrel. Hiding the blade was to astonish the world the moment it was drawn. Tap, tap, tap. A series of footsteps shattered the tranquility of the seaside cliff. Seagulls took flight in alarm. Li Changgong slowly opened his eyes. There was no blazing intensity in his gaze, only a calm as deep as the ocean. Standing behind him was the vermilion bird, clad in crimson battle armor. This female war goddess, usually known for her fiery temper, now looked at the ordinary-looking man before her and felt an inexplicable sensation welling up within her. The man she once called Big Brother now felt like a weathered middle-aged man. "Go Chen." Vermilion Bird's voice remained as icy as ever. "Commander Li has issued an order. The starry sky passage is approaching the solar system and will reach its outer edge in no more than a month. The commander wants you to return so we can discuss a strategy together." Li Changgong fell silent for a moment before slowly rising to his feet. As he moved, the raging sea winds around him strangely paused for an instant. He reached out to pick up the sword resting on his knee, gently running his fingers along the cold scabbard. 2 years. His voice was hoarse, yet it carried a texture as solid as metal. "What we discuss isn't important. What matters is what that guy Zhang plans to do." Leaning against a nearby rock, he stood up, sheathed the sword at his side, and flashed a casual smile at Vermilion Bird. "But if the chance arises, I'd be quite pleased to let my sword find a suitable opportunity to leave its sheath once more." Jiangnan Region, Blizzard City. Outside the window, the blizzard howled, painting the entire world a ghastly white. Inside the warm office, Zhu Jing sat in the massive rosewood chair symbolizing supreme authority, his brow furrowed as he held a report that had just been delivered. "Still no news?" Zhu Jing rubbed his throbbing temples, a hint of anxiety in his voice. Standing opposite him, his secretary Lan Xinqing pushed up his glasses and replied cautiously, "Commander, the young lady's whereabouts have always been elusive. Ever since that great battle 2 years ago, she has ventured alone into the deepest reaches of the far north ice plains, claiming she seeks the true meaning of absolute zero." Zhu Jing paused for a moment, then fell silent. "Why has she set her sights on Fremon's winter goddess?" Lan Xinqing explained, "Miss Xu possesses a diverse range of abilities. She is someone who pursues the absolute limit. In her view, when it comes to the realm of freezing, the most powerful entity must be the Arctic ice fields. Whether it's the winter goddess, Morana, or the Arctic's glacial clan, they are all excellent subjects for study. Over the past few years, she has occasionally made an appearance, and each time she appears, it is accompanied by a massacre." Lan Xinqing pulled up a set of data. According to statistics, over the past 2 years, more than 30 Epsilon-class mutated beasts and fugitive mutants from the 5 great clans have fallen at her hands. Intelligence assessments indicate that Miss Xu's current strength has likely undergone a qualitative transformation. The two diametrically opposed forces within her, fire and ice, appear to be achieving a terrifying equilibrium. Chapter 2772, The Starry Sky Passage Approaches, 2. Hearing this, Zhu Jing's furrowed brow finally relaxed slightly, a flicker of relief passing through his eyes, along with deep ambition. "Good, very good." Zhu Jing stood up, walked to the window, and gazed out at the blizzard raging across the sky. "Zhang Yi may be strong, but he is, after all, not someone we can fully control. Although the Deng family has sided with him, that was their choice. I, Zhu Jing, have never been inferior to anyone in my life. If one day, my daughter can surpass Zhang Yi and stand in the highest position." Zhu Zheng's palm rested lightly on the glass, as if he were grasping the entire map of Huaxu Kingdom. At that time, the true master of Blizzard City, and indeed, the entire Huashu kingdom, will be me. Issue the order. Zhu Jing turned around, his gaze growing cold and resolute. Use every means necessary to contact Zhu. Tell her the Starry Sky Passage has arrived. That is her stage, and our chance to reach the summit. A true man born under heaven cannot remain forever in the shadow of others. Give me a chance, and I'll make Zhang Yi look to me for approval. Thinking of Zhu, his expression softened. Zhu, she is my treasure, my hope. A mutant capable of infinite evolution. Anyone who dares to underestimate her will surely pay dearly. As the Starry Sky Passage drew near, the entire Earth star felt like a pot of boiling water. Whether it was the openly active Huashu Kingdom and the major ancient civilizations, the covert Pupil organization and the Holy See, or the lone powerhouses lurking in the shadows, everyone was rubbing their hands in anticipation, making their final preparations for the legendary Omega Staircase, for that last glimmer of survival and hope. A global spectacle was about to unfold. In the vastness of the cosmos, the solar system is but a seemingly insignificant speck in a corner of the Milky Way. Yet within the entire universe, there is scarcely a more perfect location. Even the slightest numerical deviation would have prevented Earth from nurturing life. This is the chosen land created by the Creator. And on this day, on the planet known as Earth within the solar system, every observatory witnessed a breathtaking sight. That colossal entity known as the Starry Sky Passage, had finally traversed the vast void, casting its immense shadow into the Kuiper Belt. Even billions of kilometers away from Earth, its absurdly massive mass triggered a terrifying chain reaction. Neptune's orbit shifted imperceptibly to the naked eye, and hundreds of millions of asteroids and comets were captured by its terrifying gravitational waves. Some were torn to shreds, becoming rings encircling the Colossus. Others were flung like stones from a slingshot into the depths of the solar system, turning into potential meteor shower disasters. On Earth, the tides grew violent, and the geomagnetic field fell into violent disarray. The aurora no longer appeared only at the poles, but danced like ghosts above the equator. A crisis more terrifying than the ice age that had descended over a decade ago had arrived. It has finally come. Tianhai City, beneath the dome of the highest level of Tianhai Fortress. Zhang Yi sat there alone, not using a holographic projection, but instead gazing quietly into deep space through a primitive yet highly precise optical telescope. In his field of vision, that double helix structure, glowing with a faint blue light, resembled a gigantic, slowly rotating drill, poised to bore a hole through this tranquil solar system. Just as Zhang Yi gazed into the abyss roared back at all living beings. Buzz. Without warning. Without any warning, without any limitations imposed by any medium. A strange wave instantly swept across the entire solar system. This wave ignored distance, ignored the vacuum, and even ignored the barriers of matter. From the desolate far side of the moon to the bustling surface of Earth, from the mermaid kingdom beneath the deep sea to the magma lizard tribe deep within the Earth's crust. Within the solar system, every life form possessing the concept of intelligence, whether sixth-generation humans, ancient survivors, or mutated creatures newly awakened to sentience, heard, at the exact same moment, a cold, majestic, and utterly emotionless voice echoing in their minds. It was not any known language, yet every living being instantly understood its meaning. Warning, unauthorized intrusion source detected. Starry Sky Passage. Threat level, cataclysmic. Initiating emergency defense protocols. Order, all sentient beings in this dimension must immediately proceed to eliminate the source of intrusion. Reward mechanism activated, for every unit of intrusions destroyed, or every internal contaminant eliminated, recipients will receive an infusion of high-purity ether. Upon eliminating the source, the right to racial ascension shall be granted. The voice faded, but the shudder that originated from the depths of their souls lingered long after. This is the will of the Creator. Zhang Yi clutched his throbbing head, a flash of horror crossing his eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, he immediately identified the source of the voice. This was the first time Zhang Yi had witnessed a higher level will directly issuing commands to all races. Was this the method of the Creator, the being who controlled everything and kept all races in captivity? Due to the vast disparity in dimensions, the Creator was unable to directly intervene in the physical world. He could only issue a mission, dangling a carrot called ether, and thus drive the billions of living beings across the solar system to rush like mad dogs toward the starry sky passage that might disrupt the universe's stable equilibrium. The right to racial ascension. Zhang Yi's eyes lit up instantly. Any race favored by the Creator would become incredibly powerful. Take, for example, the Yihen tribe, the Creator's own children, or the fourth-generation orcs, specifically created to suppress the Drucker. They all possessed a higher spiritual essence precisely because they had received the Creator's favor. Now, another opportunity had presented itself. For any race, this was a poison they could not refuse. And at this moment, every sentient being heard that voice, even those races that had initially shown little interest in the Starry Sky Passage now felt their hearts burn with fervor. The Starry Sky Clan was once incredibly powerful. At one point, they suppressed the Drucker so severely that they could only eat dirt and rocks. Had they not betrayed the Creator, this world would already be the Starry Sky Clan's domain. Ha! If we were strong enough, who would willingly let others control our fate? Shush! Watch your tongue. The opportunity is right before us, we must seize it. Meanwhile, Tianhai City, Supreme Biological Laboratory. Zhou Keir, clad in a pristine white lab coat and wearing safety goggles, was intently focused on a set of microscopes before her.